Καλησπέρα λοιπόν και από μένα. Είμαι η Μαρία Κρυβού, είμαι senior editor του Fortune Greece. Συνήθως γράφω για επιχειρήσεις, οικονομία. Ο λόγος ωστόσο που είμαι εδώ είναι επειδή είμαι δεινή βιβλιοφάγος και έχουμε μια πολύ ωραία συνεργασία που χτίζεται με τις εκδόσεις Διόπτρα. Φυσικά, όταν έγινε η πρόταση να παρουσιάσω το βιβλίο του κυρίου Έριξον, εντάξει, και μόνο ο τίτλος «Ανάμεσα σε ηλίθιους», η πρώτη μου σκέψη ήταν «Story of my life» και νομίζω ότι θα το έχετε σκεφτεί και εσείς πολλές φορές. Οπότε η απάντηση ήταν ναι, γιατί είναι μία εξέχουσα προσωπικότητα, είναι ειδικός σε θέματα συμπεριφοράς, είναι λέκτορας, είναι συγγραφέας best seller, τα βιβλία του έχουν πουλήσει πάνω από 3 εκατομμύρια αντίτυπα και έχουν μεταφραστεί σε 42 γλώσσες. Είναι ο δεύτερος λοιπόν πιο πολυμεταφρασμένος Σουηδός συγγραφέας, είναι public speaker, ελπίζω πέρυσι κάποιοι από εσάς να καταφέρετε να τον ακούσατε στο TEDx, αν όχι μπορείτε να το δείτε στο YouTube, είναι εξαιρετική η ομιλία του. Και έχει συνεργαστεί με πάρα πολλά brands, όπως είναι για παράδειγμα η IKEA, η Microsoft, η Coca-Cola. Ο ίδιος έχει πει ότι η αποστολή του είναι να βοηθά τους ανθρώπους να κατανοήσουν τον εαυτό τους πρωτίστως και τις συμπεριφορές των άλλων. Προτείνω λοιπόν να το γνωρίσουμε λίγο περισσότερο ως άνθρωπο και ή δυνατόν να μπούμε στο μυαλό του. Spoiler για το καινούργιο βιβλίο δεν θα κάνουμε. Νομίζω ότι περισσότεροι από εσάς τα έχετε ήδη αγοράσει και περιμένετε να πάρετε υπογραφές. Και αν όχι, θα το αγοράσετε εδώ από τις εκδόσεις Διόπτρα. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ για τη μετάφραση. Now we'll switch into English. Literally, it all sounds Greek to you, I suppose.
A little bit Chinese, actually.
So, I was saying a few things about your great CV, and most of the times when I interview people, I want to know the person behind the brand, the author behind the book. So, I want to find out who are you? Where do you get inspired from and the way you think?
The way I think? Well, hello everybody.
Give him an applause.
Oh no. Okay. Oh dear. Oh dear. I was just waving to everyone in the back. I can't see all of you when I'm sitting down. Well, why do I think the way I do? You should ask my wife that, really. She probably have a more honest answer than I have. But seriously, I've always been interested in people. It sounds like a cliche, but humans are fascinating because you never know who's coming in through the door, right? Every time you meet a new individual, there is something there, something you can learn, something you can find out, and something you can be really angry about, right? You know, we've all been in those meetings, you sit, like at work, you sit around a big table, 8, 12 people, you place your phone on the table, some of you have 2 phones, you know, and for some reason, I don't know why that is. I met a man with 3 smartphones. I don't know how he lived. He had a professional phone, a work phone, then he had a private phone, and then he had the Wi-Fi phone.
Okay, so maybe he was hiding something.
He was being controlled by outer forces. No, but you know, when you sit around the table, there is an agenda, you start a meeting, you run your arguments and you listen to other people and you try to figure out what's going on in here and you realize no one is listening to you, and by the way, you are not listening to them either, because you know, why would you? And when you leave the meeting, you have this sense, the only thought that is in your head is, what's wrong with these people? And we all been in those meetings, right? Say yes. We have, absolutely. There you go. Thank you, miss.
So,
and sometimes you feel you're surrounded by idiots. But interestingly enough, Maria, some people seems to be, based on my research, some people are surrounded by more idiots than others. Why is that? That's interesting.
So, I take for granted that we are surrounded by idiots, by narcissists, by energy vampires. The question to me, is there a way to avoid them or at least deal with them in everyday life?
That's 2 different questions. Can you avoid them? No. Next question, can you deal with them? Absolutely. I mean, the idiots, that's irony, and I understand everybody gets that. I don't call people idiots. On the contrary, usually say, as Kostas mentioned, I don't call people idiots. Just because we don't understand each other doesn't make any one of us an idiot. But when it comes to psychopaths, narcissists, bad bosses, well, those people exist. And you can do a lot of things if you understand basic human behavior, if you understand yourself, then you can do quite a lot actually. But you have to pay attention, you have to be there, you have to engage yourself in something. You can't just sit there and call, oh, that's a stupid idiot, and that's a moron, what does he know, what does she know? And you have to engage yourself in things, you have to be a little bit committed, because we are all the idiots in somebody's story. That's also the case.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're living in an era that we have, we usually listen that we have to embrace inclusivity, diversion. So someone might object and say that you're categorizing people and you're putting labels on them. How would you respond to such a statement?
Not at all, really, because everybody labels people from time to time. You know, just by saying there's a difference between you and I is a label. But it's just the way that it is. I mean, people are different, so what?
Everyone is unique, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not saying, it's one thing to label people. I'm not meaning labeling people in a negative sense and calling people names and everything, but to say somebody's an extrovert and task-oriented person, which I call a red in my book, if you have checked it out, and somebody else is an introvert, people-oriented person, which would be a green one. I guess that's sort of a label, but it's also helpful information. It's not the same thing as saying the either is better than the other. It's just people are different. And people who criticize this labeling, I don't think they want to be called out, really. I don't think they like to be labeled themselves, and probably because it takes one to know one, right? Mm-hmm. If you know what I mean.
Do you think that personality traits are fixed, or can people truly reinvent themselves? From your experience.
That's an interesting question. Can you change who you are? Not fundamentally. You can add things on top of your personality. You can change your habits. You can change your patterns a little bit. But when you're a grown-up, which is when your frontal lobe closes, actually, it's actually a physical thing. When the frontal lobe closes here, which happens with women at the age of 18, 19, young men, sorry, but
does it ever
23,
close?
24, some say never. I wouldn't say that, maybe later. Now at 5 or 6, why did our creator or nature, or whatever your beliefs are, make it like that? I don't know, we just know it is like that. But when your frontal lobe closes, now your personality is getting more fixed. And actually, now you can understand the consequences of your decisions. And that's also why it is so expensive for young men to insure their motorcycles. You know, don't. But after that, you don't change very much unless you go through a certain trauma, like a near-death experience or losing a child, horrible thing that will affect you in your...
Things that might be milestones, you mean, in one's life?
Psychological traumas, really upsetting divorce or losing a parent could be, it depends, but something that shakes you to your core, if you know what I mean. It really, you know, deeply scars you. Then you can change. I've seen it a couple of times. Usually people, you can add things, you can build some skill sets, you can learn how to adopt in a certain situation. But generally speaking, you're not changing very much after you are an adult, let's call it. That is what the science says.
Even though we live in an age of abundance and convenience, and even though communication is easier than ever, we see isolation, selfish tendencies, and intense violence. As a behaviorist, what characterizes today's social media society? What was the most surprising realization you have had about people?
Oh, well, this is an important issue. I'm happy you asked that question, but the answer is a bit complicated. I think you said it's easier to communicate these days. Well, yes and no. It depends on what you mean by communication. We have
I mean that we have all the means in our disposal, that the distance is no limit anymore.
Right? We have all the tools, we have the smartphones, I can see a lot of them in the air already. We have social media, the internet and messenger tools, a lot of things, platforms, whatever. So we can communicate, but are we getting better at communicating? Are we just shouting into the dark void, or are we actually connecting with people, which is another thing? Because I could communicate, we can empty this room. Everybody could leave and go home. They can shut down the lights and I can stay here and keep talking. That's a way of communicating. But to who? To absolutely nobody. I think social media is useful. I think smartphones are useful, but there's also a true danger here, because we are not connecting the way we did. So sitting in front of you and meeting your gaze and reading your body language, your facial expressions, seeing all of you here, this type of live event is what I really love to do. Because I can see you, you can see me, we can have a conversation. I can read how you are posing yourself and how you are looking back and everything, how you are reacting, which is impossible on social media. And by the way, social media mostly pushes narcissistic behavioral traits. That's a fact. We know the narcissists are thriving on Instagram, on TikTok. That has been
vanity metrics.
Vanity metrics, right, yes. Look at me, see me, love me, adore me, worship me. That's a narcissistic trait. Everybody who's doing more and more extreme stuff online are the narcissists. We know this. There's a huge body of research suggesting that this is going to be a huge problem. So communication, I think for me, communication is important. But it's also important to have a correct diet, you know. And like the saying goes, more food is not necessarily better. I think it's the same thing with communication. More communication is not necessarily better if it's the wrong one. If you eat very little, but you only eat sugar and fat, that's not good for you. But if you have a healthy diet and you sort of have a variety in what's on your plate, same thing with communication. If you only consume TikTok videos for 30 seconds until your eyes bleed, that's going to break down your brain, literally speaking. This is not a joke. Close your phone, leave it somewhere else and go out on the streets and talk to people. Meet at cafes, but leave the bloody phone at home. Not that you asked for my advice, but please. I went through a news detox for 30 days last year. This summer I will have a smartphone detox. I'm going to buy myself an old school flip phone. So yes, they can call me and I can call them, but I'm not checking anything during possibly July. We'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. Just testing the waters and see what's going to happen, because I don't feel good about what's happening out there. Mm-hmm. We're getting more and more polarized because of these tools.
What you mentioned was a food for thought and a challenge as well. In your books, you emphasize that understanding others starts with understanding ourselves. Do you think that people invest as much time as they should on discovering themselves? Because it's a painful and difficult journey.
Self-awareness is a pain. It's interesting, in order to be a great communicator, let me answer it like this. If we talk about communication, how to reach out to each other, how to make people listen, how to make people understand each other, how to make you over there read me when I show myself to the room, all of these things, in order to do something good about it, you need what I call social competence or people skills. You need to understand how to act around other people. You need to understand how your behaviors are affecting other people's behaviors. But in order to understand that, you need self-awareness, because if you don't know who you are and how people perceive you, then you can't build anything. So you can't be an excellent communicator unless you build self-awareness. The problem with self-awareness, it's like it works like with humor. Everybody thinks they have it. I mean, you can try anyone, just grab someone you've never seen before on your way out in an hour or so and say, hey, do you have humor? Do you think they're going to say, no, I don't. My brother got some, but I have none. so my life is a complete struggle. No, everybody thinks they have it. Same thing we said. There was an interesting study in the United States. They asked 3,000 people. They asked them to describe themselves in detail, and then they got the question, how would you rate your self-awareness? If this is 100% and this is, you don't even recognize yourself in the mirror anymore, would you place yourself, it was a simple question, you can ask yourself this question, would you rate yourself above average or below average? Above or below? If we have any mathematicians in the room, you will be interested in the findings. 95% of these 3,000 people rated themselves above average. That's really interesting. And it's a mathematical impossibility. Should I say it again? 95%. It's like asking men, are you a good driver? Of course we are above average. We're never, right? Of course we are.
Working for Fortune magazine here in Greece, I have interviewed some of the most influential CEOs. I realized that those who succeed and have an impact are those who, apart from being talented and good at what they are doing, are the ones that give space to their teams. How important are soft skills for someone's success? Because it is something that you mention in your books.
Again, it's grounded in self-awareness, which makes you a great communicator, which is a part of social competence. And I've seen this as well. I have mentored lots of these types of people. I have mentored many CEOs and founders and entrepreneurs all over Europe. And I know the most successful ones are the ones who makes people thrive in whatever capacity it is. They have self-awareness. They are excellent communicators. They know exactly what people see when they meet them. They know when to push and when to pull. They know when to tone themselves down. They know when to enter the internal cycle and take more space and so on. Because they work on themselves. The best CEOs that I have met, and you will probably agree, I think, they read a lot of books. They take a lot of classes. They do. They constantly develop themselves. Even though they are at my age and making like $1 gazillion per year, they still read books about behaviors, about communication, about leadership. Still constantly learning. They don't leave the university at their early 20s and then never open a book again. No, they buy books over and over and over, which is, by the way, a good thing to do. Mm-hmm. Said in a bookstore.
If you could
Would you agree?
If I?
That they are constant learners?
Yes, they are constant learners. If you could give one piece of advice to people struggling in toxic workplace environments, what would it be? How do you deal with a bad colleague or a bad boss?
Well, it depends. Could you give them an example of toxic workplace? What's going on? So many
I mean that someone doesn't respect you.
Someone doesn't respect me? Oh, that happens on a daily basis. Well, bad behaviors, it depends. It depends. If it's my boss, if it's my manager, well, that's a problem, of course. If it's my colleague, it's a smaller problem. If it's me, I don't even know about the problem. Sometimes I'm the idiot, as I said before. Well, usually what I think, we had a discussion while waiting for us to start here, and I said I'm not very Swedish, although I am from Sweden. And one thing that we do in Sweden is we don't talk about problems or challenges because it's hurtful and not someone's going to get hurt, and let's just pretend it doesn't happen. Or let's just play. Like.
So you prefer being in your comfort zone?
Trying to stay in the comfort zone, trying to say, no, it's going to blow over, just sit this one out, nothing's going to happen. But that's a bad sign. That's not good, because things going to just wipe it under the carpet, pretend it didn't happen. I didn't see, I didn't hear the comment, I didn't read that email, I think. I have deleted it though, because it was too painful. But people tend to do this, and I think that's the bad way to go. The best way to go is the first time ever you see something that you don't like, don't understand, makes you question yourself, question other people, makes you confused, just call it out. Call a spade a spade. You immediately, the first time it happens, you go to that person who did this.
So set boundaries.
Yeah, well, that's probably a consequence. But the first thing you do is you don't say, hey, you're a mean bastard, aren't you? No. You say, what happened just now made me confused. I would like to have a conversation. When you did this or said that, that's actually quite complicated for me. Could we talk about it? Most people are acting like jerks without even knowing it. Everybody is not a narcissist or a psychopath. They can be toxic without even understanding it themselves. Makes sense, right? And sometimes we just stumble and fall. But if you talk to people, you can probably sort it out really, really quickly. If you deal with it immediately, 6 years in, it's too late. Now we have to find another job. And even if you say, but it's my dream job, I can't quit. Well, is it really your dream job if your boss is bullying you? Of course it's not a dream job, it's a stupid job. Switch jobs.
Have you ever...
Set boundaries. If it doesn't work, just leave. You can't change other people. You can only change yourself. You will never change somebody else. Never, ever.
Have you ever misjudged someone's personality type and faced unexpected consequences?
I have misread people, absolutely. I still probably do, even though I've been doing this for some 30 years. I probably mess up sometimes. Bad consequences, I don't have any real stories on that topic specifically. I remember a couple of times I read somebody as being an extrovert, people-oriented, yellow, if I may use that kind of language, if you know what I'm talking about. But turns out someone was half hysterical and rather scared for a certain reason, talking constantly and not making any sense. So you know, it could have, but didn't have bad consequences. But I've been doing this for so long, and I like reading people and understanding and try to interpret behaviors. It's like speaking a second language, really. I mean, you speak English. If we speak English over there, you cannot not hear us. You will hear what we're talking about. For me, it's the same thing. When I see somebody, I say, oh, that's kind of an introvert over there, okay, eating my face, okay, no problem, quite bold, okay, that's an extrovert, you know, I see the body language twitching all the time. I make assumptions, and then I ask a couple of questions, and I listen to the choice of words, I listen to how fast they are speaking, I listen to if they answer a question straight away, or if they walk around in circles, so then I make up my mind, and it's usually quite correct, but I've been doing it for 30 years. So I have an upper hand there.
So far, we have 4 types of personality. If you had to add a 5th one today, what would it be and why?
Well, there is a tool that complements the DISC profile. The DISC profile has 4, not type of people, but rather types within people. I can be very technical here and complicate the evening for all of you if you want me to. But basically, we have 4 major types which can be combined in thousands of ways. That's important to point out. There's not only 4 types of people, of course, and I understand that you know that, but it's important. There is another tool called the Big 5, which adds something. It adds something called neuroticism, meaning how sensitive are you to bad thoughts. That's something that you could use on top of things, which means in a stressful situation, I can predict a little bit more about how you will react, regardless of your color. And then I can also measure drivers or motivators, which is another tool that you can combine. What motivates people is usually what makes them tick, you know, what makes people really work really hard or pay a really huge interest in something. Which is based in fundamental values, if you're going to go really deep. Not how people are acting, but why they are acting in a certain way. Why are you a journalist? Why am I an author? And so on. Why are some people running a publishing house? Why do some people start a bookstore? The reason behind is interesting. That can teach you a lot about people and how their thoughts are going, really. So that would be something to look into, I would say. It's not it's kind of a personality trait, I guess.
A more personal question. What is the most challenging personality type for you to interact with?
Oh. Well, there is one. Should I really say that? I can sort of slide it in by revealing some of my own colors, if that's of anyone's interest. Let's talk about me. That would be the yellow bar.
Okay.
I have a rather high yellow bar, but my red bar and there's 4 bars, red, yellow, green, blue. I have a really high red bar and equally high blue bar, which makes me task-oriented. I like to speak about the assignment, you know, what's going to happen and so on. And then I have a rather yellow bar, which I use now to try to make myself look smarter than I am. When I'm on stage in front of 2,500 people, I obviously use yellow behavior, otherwise it's going to be sort of boring-ish, kind of. I can read statistics from an Excel sheet if I use the blue bar, but you're not going to listen to that. The red one would say, okay, that's it, you can read the memo, goodbye, that's it. What I don't have is the green bar. I have no green, I think I had 2% green. I'm so sorry. I do apologize. I think I blame my mother.
I hope the green ones didn't get offended.
Of course they didn't, because I love the green people and they are in majority, so we have to deal with those people as well. No, but seriously, I blame it on my mother's side. They took all the green, I got no green. I don't know why that is, which makes me not a natural talent when it comes to active listening, for instance. Or I'm not probably the best team player. I have to turn that notch on. I have to sort of turn it on. Then I can be in that. But when the meeting is over, I'm going to just boom, I'm out of there. So the green factor, if I'm speaking to someone who is only green and nothing but green, which is absolutely lovely, friendly, really nice, helpful, kind, lovely people, but it's not me. So I have to really pay attention to myself in those situations, which I hope I do. I'm so sorry if someone thinks I'm an idiot now. That's very unfortunate for me, I guess. What was the question again? Okay. See?
Before we go to the new book, what's one behavior that instantly signals someone might be manipulative or even a psychopath? One signal.
One signal. Well, you see, that's the challenge with psychopathy and also some advanced narcissists. They don't do one thing. They do many things, and there is a playbook, I think. There isn't a playbook, and it feels like there is a playbook for manipulative behaviors, and they all basically do some things. Obviously, they are liars, they cheat, they steal, they do stupid things. One thing that is very common that you could look out for is the blame game. Meaning they do something stupid, they say something really horrible to you.
And they put the blame on you.
And they put the blame on you. They offend you or insult you, and you react to say, how could you say this to me? What's wrong with you? You're so mean and horrible.
And then they become the victim as well.
Then they become the victim. Oh, so now you're the yelling type. Now I don't have any responsibility over your feelings. That's all on you, you know. How could you call me a liar? I only told the truth, you know. When they blame you for things that you know you didn't do, you know it for a fact. That's a red flag, as we say.
So, Surrounded by Liars, a new book release, a new book that comes to make us think, since more or less we all lie, even if we talk about white lies. If you had to list 3 basic psychological reasons why we lie, what would they be?
Specific reasons why we lie. The kid lies to avoid the consequences. I stole a couple of cookies, I know I couldn't do that, so to avoid the consequences, I pointed at my little sister and said she took the cookies. She's only 1.5 years, she can't lie. So she will say, I didn't. And she doesn't really know what happened. That's one reason, to avoid consequences. Another reason is to gain advantages, of course. I closed the deal. I talked to the client. I did the negotiation with the customer. Give me the raise. Yeah, but Robert over there said that he was in the meeting too, and he did the heavy lifting. No, that's a lie. I was the hero in this situation, so I will lie and make myself bigger in order to you know, get an advantage. And then of course we have lies to protect ourselves from pain. I think the most common lie on the planet is, I'm fine. I'm fine. How are you? Oh, I'm fine, I'm good. Perfect. That's rarely the case. very often we're not fine. But I'm not going to talk to you about it because that's too much pain and too much hurt, and I can't do it because it's not that type of day. And besides, what are you going to think about me if I really tell you how I am?
So this is a matter of arrogance, let's say, that we don't want to reveal our real feelings.
Maybe we don't want to reveal our feelings.
Our vulnerability.
Our vulnerabilities. I don't even know what to do with it. I'm super stressed, and my wife nagged at me, and my children are you know, my boss is saying that I messed up, and sometimes my children agrees with my boss, and you know, what am I going to do? Life is hard, you know. And when you ask me, you know, over lunch, how are you? I'm fine. I can't even deal with this, but it's a lie. But it's about to protect myself. It could be to protect my vulnerability. It could be to protect my reputation, because I'm the strong man here. I have to look like a perfect guy who can deal with anything, anywhere. Of course, I'm going to lie to you. White lies are probably the most common ones, thankfully. Those are about protecting you.
I saw that my boyfriend was laughing when you were talking about white lies, and I told him that I'm going to ask Mr. Erikson, because whenever he tells white lies, it gets on my nerves. So just give him an advice to change this, please.
All right, so you do something else for a while. What you're going to do here about it is the following. White lies, well, the thing with white lies is we need white lies. We need people to, you know, it's sort of greasing relationships and making society a bit smoother. If I ask you, what do you think about my new jacket? And you tell me, I hope you kept the receipt. That's not
I
very
would
polite.
be finished then.
That might be true, but I don't want to hear it. I paid a lot of bucks for this one. Well, I didn't. This is, but you understand what I mean. So, you know, would you like to go to dinner tonight? I'm dreadfully tired. I'm crying from pain, but of course I'm gonna come to dinner again, of course. Because I care about you. Or my wife in this case, and you care about your boyfriend, he cares about you. So we sort of play along, but it's not true. I would like to just stay home and with my hand in a bag of potato chips. That's what I want to do. But of course, we're going to have 3 hour dinner with your...
I prefer bare truth.
Sorry?
If you ask me, I prefer bare truth.
Of course, I do that too. I'm old enough to understand it's... Okay, what would you say? A lot of people prefer a pleasant lie instead of a harsh truth. That goes for most people. I'm old enough to understand pleasant truths doesn't help me. But it's taken me quite some time to achieve it. And it has hurt my ego when people say, you messed up, you know, you don't know what you're talking about. This is not your topic. Shut up, go away. They're right. I don't like it, but they're correct. I have to read up on certain things, you know. I make mistakes like everybody else. If no one calls me out on them, why would I sort of better myself? I have to improve myself. And sometimes the feedback is important. But yes, it hurt. It hurts like man, you know. It hurts.
I know that you have limited time in your disposal and you have to sign the books. And the last question would be, in Greece you have a fanatic readership. What is the message you would like to address to Greek readers that are here tonight with us? And they came here for you.
I should read everybody's mind and make some average answer about it. Well...
I mean, why they should buy your new book?
Why they should... Well, it's a very good book. That's an obvious reason. But that's maybe not...
Apart from that.
Apart from that, well, that's a big issue. It's a good book. Well, no, if you're interested in people, if you're interested in humans, if you're interested in yourself, which I know you are, because 90% of all your thoughts is about you, if you didn't know. You can track it yourself. You think mostly about you and your own ideas and actions and so on. That's what we do. We all do the same thing. If you're interested in yourself, if you're interested in slightly improving who you are and reading the room a little bit better, just 3 or 4%, then maybe my next book has something to offer actually, because it's, as all my books, it's based on reality. I don't write for the academia. I don't write for professors at universities. I write for normal, regular people, just like myself. That's why I use anecdotes and a little bit of humor and you know, just regular language, because you have to sort of get it. I like systems that works better than systems that are exact. That's what I do. So I don't know if that answers the question, but you know, give it a go, see what happens. Keep the receipt. You know, keep the receipt and then you know what to do with it.
Thank you so much for being here tonight, for the time you gave us and the fact that you let us get into your mind for a while. I wish you good luck with your new book and I hope to see you again next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria.
Σας ευχαριστούμε πολύ.
Thank you so much.
Ελπίζω να μην σας κουράσαμε. Νομίζω ότι είναι λίγες οι φορές που έχουμε την ευκαιρία έτσι, να γνωρίσουμε το συγγραφέα πίσω από το βιβλίο και σιγά σιγά μπορείτε να υπογράψετε και τα βιβλία που έχετε αγοράσει. Εγώ να σας ευχαριστήσω θερμά.